Welcome, climate viewers. This is Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News at ClimateViewer.com. And it's Throwback Thursday, so that means it's time to do a little bit of weather modification history. And I got a funny story about how Batman controls the weather. 1979. Before that, we're going to go way back. It's poetry time. Let's do this. So over on weathermodificationhistory.com, links are in the details. There is an ode to pluviculture. And this is actually titled The Rime of the Rain Machine by F.W. Clark in 1891. And I find this poem to be poignant because it's pretty much been the history of weather modification since the dawn of man's attempt to control the weather. People try, bad things happen, nobody wants to take the blame. But at the end of the day, yes, Batman. Chat's already concerned. Yes, the Batman controlling the weather. It's one of my favorite stories. I haven't told it in a while. So we're just gonna do this thing. Said Jeremy Jonathan Joseph Jones, the weather is far too dry, so I reckon I'll have to stir my bones and try the effect of concussive tones upon the lazy sky. So Jeremy Jonathan Joseph went away to the nearest town, and there his money was quickly spent for queer contraptions all intent to make the rain come down. There were cannon and mortars and lots of shells and dynamite by the ton, with a gas balloon and chime of bells, and various other mystic spells to overcloud the sun. The day was fair and the sky was bright, and never a cloud was seen, when Jeremy Jonathan set alight his biggest fuse and screwed up tight the joints of the rain machine. He fired a shot and barely two when the sky began to pale. A third one brought a heavy dew, but at the fourth, tornadoes blew with thunder, rain, and hail. It rained all night and another day, and then for a week or more. It flooded the farm in a scandalous way and drowned poor Jeremy, sad to say, who couldn't stop the pour. Oh, Jeremy Jonathan Joseph Jones, your farm was fair to see, but now a lake lies over its stones, from whose dark bosom horrific moans are heard nocturnally. To check the flood you've started, I've heard all efforts were in vain until the Bureau at Washington stirred and stopped the storm with a single word by just predicting rain. Interestingly enough, all efforts were in vain until the Bureau at Washington stirred and stopped the storm with a single word by just predicting rain. Now, clearly, Jeremy Jonathan Joseph Jones made a rain machine, and that rain machine flooded his farm. And he couldn't stop the rain, and it killed him. And instead of telling the public what happened, the government simply said, we were predicting rain today. And this has been the long history of weather modification. And that's where Batman enters the scene. Now we're going to jump ahead to 1979. And for those who are interested, this comes from NOAA History. This website has now been deleted, but you can see it at history.noaa.gov/art/rainmachine.html. If you go to weathermodificationhistory.com and you see the reference section down here, you'll see that the link is here. And if you go to it, it's going to be, oops, these coordinates were not found, which is typical of anything I cover. So you just simply right click that bad boy, copy it, stick it down here in the Wayback Machine button I made, hit submit, and then it will pop you to a new window where you can see the originals of every single link that I put on weathermodificationhistory.com, custom coded by moi for you so that they cannot take away these original references. But as we were saying, it's Batman time. So, weather may be unnaturally severe because of unnatural modification. Title of article. And we're going to just go straight down here to the bottom. This is from Google News, from the Bulletin Journal, Concord Publishing House, Inc., 1979. Original newspaper link right there. And here is the actual image, which we will bring up to full screen, and everybody can see the full size article here. Now, out of all the articles that we have in our newspaper vault on weather modification history, this one tickled me the most. Because, I mean, there's a farmer named Batman. And that alone just tickles me. With the weather we've had this winter, you'd think everybody would be in favor of weather modification. There are those, however, who believe our winters are unnaturally severe because they are being unnaturally modified. A Missouri House Agricultural Subcommittee heard a witness advance that this last week. He is Gerald W. Admires, I don't know, we'll say admires. Gerald W. Admires of Holt, Missouri, an ex-Navy chief quartermaster who is spending his sunset years not looking out at the sunset, but peering at satellite photographs and weather maps. Quote, "We haven't had a normal weather pattern since 1949. Now, interestingly enough, in 1949, that's when Irving P. Crick invented the ground-based cloud seeding generator. So therefore, he's specifically referring to, we haven't had normal weather since they started using ground-based cloud seeding generators all across America. Missouri is getting the residual effects of things as the Bureau of Reclamation efforts to put more water into the Colorado River, he said. Now, this is Project Skywater, also on weathermodificationhistory.com. We're not going to get sidetracked. Let's keep on going. What does the rest of the winter hold for us? Asked the subcommittee chairman, Representative Harry Hill. Quote, "There will be another good storm before the end of March," Admires answered, "and this spring we'll be dodging tornadoes all over the place. And next winter, it will be as bad, if not worse than this one," was the reply. "The Rocky Mountain Consortium will keep on cloud seeding. And beside that, there's the 1980 Winter Olympics at Lake Placid, New York. That will need snow." Admires noted that President Gerald Ford signed an International Weather Modification Act in 1976, and shortly thereafter was able to ski on fresh snow at Vail, Colorado. This is the Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972 and the Weather Modification Act of 1976. Anyway, Representative John Fowler observed that airlines in ads for ski excursions promised fresh snow or your money back. I actually have some of those advertisements in our news section. You can check them out. Yes, airlines promising fresh snow. David Horner of Columbia, an employee of the National Weather Service, declined to express an opinion about Admirer's opinions, nor would he comment whether Fowler said he had read the Russians were diverting jet streams to make it rain or arid land near the Black Sea, possibly influencing world weather. Reminder, we're talking about 1979. Diverting jet streams to make rain or arid land near the Black Sea. Where's the Black Sea, people? Ukraine. Possibly influencing world weather. 1979. Nor, for that matter, would Horner predict weather for the next few months. The National Weather Service, quote, has no particular opinion about Missouri weather for March, April, and May, he said. For some other states, we have issued a forecast with some confidence. The weather modification hearing was held at the suggestion of Cordell Tyndall of Fayette and an editor of Missouri Ruralist magazine who served on agricultural advisory boards in the Hernandez administration. Tyndall doesn't hold with Admirer's theories one bit. He says there's no way to measure how much it would have rained anyway. Keep that in mind. It is true. There's no way to tell which way this thing would have went. But regardless, I think we know. You break, you buy. You screw with the weather, you should deal with the consequences. He remembers that in the 1960s, a Springfield reservoir was running dry and that cloud treatment produced just the right amount of water. Representative Hill, commenting on the testimony, said, I can't take it all at fact value. I assume that was face value, fact value, but there's food for thought. And here comes Batman. Hill mentioned the late Ray Batman, a rancher at Grain Valley, Missouri. Ray Batman. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The truth is always stranger than fiction. Batman was a man of firm views and fat wallet. He contributed to political campaigns and thus could expound his views to tolerant ears. One spring, it was so wet that Batman couldn't plant his crops. He got U.S. Senator Stuart Symington on the phone. He told Symington various international interests were tinkering with the weather. Certainly, the national government was aware of this, and would Symington arrange for the rain to let up so Batman could get his crops in? Symington listened and said, well, he hoped the weather would clear up. The rain stopped the next day. The trouble was, it stayed stopped. By midsummer, there was a near drought. Batman called Symington and complained. It took longer this time, but 2 or 3 days later, Batman's crops received moisture. Nobody could tell him there wasn't a higher power in Washington, D.C. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Did Batman know something we don't know? In 1979, did a farmer or a rancher named Ray Batman call his representative in Congress, and suddenly the rain stopped? And then he called him back because he was a large political donor with a big fat wallet. And then it started raining again. And how does this sound eerily similar to an ode to pluviculture, the poem that we started out with, where somebody starts a rain machine up and then they can't stop it. And of course, this was 1891. From 1891 to 1946, cloud seeding was invented by Vincent Schaefer, Irving Langmuir, and Bernard Vonnegut at the General Electric Labs. 1949, Irving P. Crick invented the ground-based cloud seeding generator. Those now cover the entire Rocky Mountains. They operate every single year from October through March. They provide rain to the parched West every single year. And Batman in Missouri does not like it. So this is your Throwback Thursday weather modification history. And I'll look forward to doing these, every Thursday. Try to find an interesting tidbit from history and bring it to you. I do enough long videos as it is, just a short, sweet one. But I find this story informative, slightly hilarious, and scary all at the same time. That back in 1979, the Russians were steering the jet stream to bring water to the Black Sea, which just happens to be Ukraine, all in this one article. And these articles are real. The difference is reporting today is very propagandized. There are very few true journalists that are allowed to say the truth, interview people. Everybody kind of just regurgitates what the AP tells them to. So when you look back at the old, reporting versus what's going on today, it's pretty insane. And that's why the slogan at weathermodificationhistory.com is, those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. So please come over to weathermodificationhistory.com, click the timeline, and go through that history from 1841 with the Storm King all the way through the present, from weather warfare to space weather modification, the HARP project canon in 1965 to HARP, the microwave in 1994, and so much more. The weather warfare ban, NMOD, and all of the things. Chernobyl meltdown and making fallout rain in Belarus, not in Moscow. The list just goes on, and all your geoengineering as well as steering lightning bolts. And if you just got to have more, come over to the newspaper vault where this was pulled from. Beautifully made by my best friend, Dominic Marama up in Canada, who spent thousands of hours combing through all these newspapers and recreating them in a single image so that you can pull them up and look at them yourselves, and see things like 1919 producing rain with X-rays, or some really, really big images like Tesla's tidal wave to make war impossible. And by really, really big, I mean like really freaking big. This is the zoomed out view. This is the actual size of that image. So come over to weathermodificationhistory.com, check it out. The man, the myth, the legend, and all of the beautiful artwork ready for you to peruse. So guys, thank you for tuning in to this Throwback Thursday weather modification history. Batman controls the weather. Truth, fact, fiction? Let me know in the comments. Please share this video because sharing is caring. Hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this on BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, come over to YouTube, hold your nose, press the subscribe button, leave a comment, and then dip. And if you can, support my work by going to connect.climateviewer.com. You can do it monthly or do it single time on PayPal. And all of my social media, my other video websites, places to connect with me, where to get updates on my latest videos, all right there. So with that being said, now you know it. Knowing is half the battle. But what you do with the information is important. So please use this information to attack ideas, not people. Love you, mean it. If the video resonates with you, leave me a comment because I love hearing from y'all. First time here, be sure to subscribe and click the bell. Yeah! Remember, it would be impossible for me to do this without your support, so please join my Patreon or buy me a coffee on PayPal. And always, attack ideas, not people.